Okay, so these are 6-ounce clawed steaks. I know some locations were using these previously. So these are going to be for our steak and bake feature. It's just a little bit of a take on a mashed potato bowl, if you will. So these are the steaks we're going to use for that. These are 6 ounce. It's going to be a little bit of a different cutting procedure, but beyond that, everything's going to be the same. So we're going to cut these into 12. So I'm going to be a little bit smaller pieces for the final outcome. I'm going to cut it into 3 strips and then 12s as evenly as possible. And then from that point, you're going to take and just going to follow normal procedures, portion them to 5 ounces. So the most important part for this, or a very important part for this, is that because they're a 6-ounce steak and we're portioning them to 5 ounces, you basically want to cut 6 steaks at a time so you have 0 waste. So it has to be divisible by 5 ounces. So, you know, obviously 6 times 5 is 30, divided by 5 is 6 portions. Okay, so for the steak and bake, we're going to start with a baked potato, and we'll get into that after once we start assembling it. Butter, pepper or onions, peppers, or clawed steak tips, and then you can get it with 2 different sauces either way. So you can get it with gravy, or you can get it like Philly style with cheese sauce. Okay, so we're going to assemble the steak and bake. So remove baked potato from the wrapper, and basically going to kind of cut it into an X, and you're going to flour it in the bowl. Right, we kind of want to fill up the bowl a little bit. Scoop of butter, just like we normally would. Onions and peppers. This does not have to be extremely pretty. And then we have our cooked tips. Again, it's very important that you keep these separate because they are a different cut of beef, right? And again, 5 ounces and approximately 10 pieces per order. And they're cooked just like our regular tips. And load them all in the middle, best you can. A couple fall off, that's also okay. Gravy. And our guests do have the option to add mushrooms or bacon. So if they do order those, mushrooms will be placed along with the onions and peppers, as well as the bacon. Okay, so we're going to assemble the last bowl, which is a little more like Philly style. The other one I like to refer to as our Hossland loaded. So this one, same way, baked potato out. Floured in the bowl. Butter. This time we're actually going to do cheese sauce first before all the other toppings. So approximately 2 ounces. You don't have to be particularly careful with it. Onions. Peppers again. Our steak tips. Again, these are the clawed. That's it. So, a quick overview of the steak and bake. The most important thing is that we're using these 6-ounce clawed steaks, and we're cutting them into 12, portioning them to 5 ounces. So for every 5 steaks, it'll yield 6 portions. So you have 0 waste. The other thing is these are available with mashed potatoes at a guest request. We will offer this with an additional cost with mushrooms and or bacon, and they'll go on immediately after the onions and peppers. Okay, so the last thing for today is we're going to do a dessert. It is basically a spoof on a Boston cream pie. We're using some components and some recipes that we've used or that are available right now in the recipe book. So we're going to be making our ganache, again, that we use for our current Boston cream. We're going to be using our instant pudding, which we're currently using, just basically following manufacturer's directions. And then we're going to be using our pound cake, which I don't have in front of me. Exact same preparation, cut the same, and everything like that. So then we'll get to it from there. So the first thing we're going to do is start off with our ganache. The current recipe calls for a double boiler method, overheat. I'm actually going to do it in the microwave. Both instructions are included. So probably the most important thing about this is, obviously you want a smooth, even consistency. We are using the butter, what I like to refer to as butter substitute. It doesn't really impart any flavor. It just does the job that it's meant to do. So when this is done, and we'll talk about it again, because of the quantity and whether or not you're able to use it all at once, as soon as it comes out of the microwave or off the range, you can break this down into smaller components for reheating it later. So this is going to get a 3-day shelf life at room temperature. Okay, so no need to refrigerate. And then it can be reheated for approximately 30 seconds in the microwave, stirred, and it should come right back to the original consistency. And you can do it over the stove, but again, it just seems a little bit of extra work. And again, you can divide it out into smaller quantities to reheat at your need. Okay, so after we combine all the ingredients, I kind of like to give it a quick stir, make sure everything's evenly distributed. And then from there, we're going to put it in Chef Mike, and we're going to cook it in 1-minute intervals, and then pull and stir. 1 minute, pull, stir, and should take about 3 minutes total, stirring each time. So we're going on our 3rd minute. Depending on the power level or how hot your microwave cooks, that makes sense. You may have to cut it back to 2 minutes, so just gauge it based on your Chef Mike. So Chef Mike did a wonderful job. This actually took a little bit less than 3 minutes. It is very hot. This is the point where you'd pull it out, and if you want to portion it into smaller quantities for reheating or as needed, this is the point you would do it. And I would leave this cool. I believe our original recipe calls for 10 minutes. So because we're going to be putting it on cold ingredients, it definitely makes sense. So we'll come back to this later point. Okay. Next step is the instant pudding, vanilla instant pudding. This is again the current product we're using for today's purpose. We're making a half a batch because I have my arch nemesis here, and the bowl's a little on the smaller side. So we're just going to add our mix. Add our milk. And we do have a recipe included, but for simplicity's sake, you're just following the manufacturer's directions on the bag. And that is to mix for 2 to 3 minutes. I suggest scraping approximately halfway through just to get any residual gelatin and those kind of things, particulates, off the bottom. So after mixing 3 to 4 minutes, scraping the bowl and such, when it's done, allow it to sit for 15 minutes, no less, probably a maximum of 30, to allow all the gelatin to finish doing its work and binding it up. So there you go. So for our Boston cream, what we'll call Parfait, obviously we need our dessert cups. We'll have a little bit of graham cracker in the bottom, our pudding, our pound cake, which is cut exactly how we're cutting now for the birthday cake. So cut in half, cut into 12s for a total of 24 half pieces. Our ganache and some whipped cream to finish off. So to assemble, just a little bit of graham cracker for contrast, and then we're going to do our pudding. Then we're going to take our pound cake. just a little bit. It's pretty resilient, so you don't have to worry about it getting real soggy or anything like that from the pudding. We're going to take our ganache, approximately 1 tablespoon, and just going to do a little drizzle. And then from this point, we're going to refrigerate them, leave them sit. This will set up fairly quickly, and then from that point, we're going to top with whipped cream. So use your imagination. So quick overview for the Boston cream, in case I missed anything. Our instant pudding, just basically follow manufacturer's directions, allow a little bit of rest setup time for the gelatin to do its work. Pound cake is cut exactly how we're cutting it now. Ganache, 2 methods, microwave, range top, allow to cool, prior to assembling the Boston cream. The other important factor is that this does not have whipped cream on it, but after you apply the ganache, allow it to set for probably about 10-15 minutes, just so that it doesn't melt the whipped cream and it kind of forms that shell and consistency we're looking for. 3-day shelf life. That's, I think, about it.